Good morning. Here I am again, all by myself. I'm going to leave my screensaver on with all my photographs so it'll seem more like there's people here. I'm looking out the window to downtown Phoenix. It's kind of we've had 3 or 4 days of wonderful days, cool, monsoon type weather, but we didn't get a whole lot of rain. But anyway, here I am this morning with my, first of all, I want to say that I'm back with some news about the 20-week abortion ban in Arizona that has been upheld in court. It was taken to court and a judge upheld this for reasons of pain. The claim is the fetus can feel pain at 20 weeks along. So abortion would be banned because of that reason. And there's about 7 states which have banned abortions at 20 weeks. 7, and Arizona joins them. So I wanted to note this. Abortion, 20-week abortion ban upheld. Now, Planned Parenthood is still fighting another portion of the restrictions that were passed that banned an abortion provider from getting any funds from the state, Medicaid, of that type, and that targeted Planned Parenthood. So they're still saying that they provide women with very needed health care, cancer screenings for cancer, to send them on. You know, abortion clinics don't have mammogram equipment, but they refer people that they think might be at risk to doctors to follow up. So they are still contesting that part of the law. Well, I know that my abortion protesting, which is of long standing, doesn't make me popular, but I'm used to that. I was a Democrat for many years because I always upheld the causes of minorities, because I think in this country it's always been very hard for the majority, which has been whites up to now, to be fair, to not exploit minorities, to not give them equality no matter what. And so I was always a Democrat because I felt the Democratic Party addressed these issues better than the Republicans. L.B. Johnson was responsible for passing a big civil rights bill that gave more equality to blacks. And of course he's a Democrat, and reading his book, now see, I'm a big reader and I get a lot of information from reading. Now these are 2 of the latest books that I've read, and one of them is called The Dream of the Celt, and it's about Roger Casement, who went as an investigator to explore the Congo, part of the Congo that the King of Belgium had traded for, you might say, so they could get at the rubber trees. And he was supposed to bring an enlightened, more progress to the Congo. And instead of that, the people who went in there to work with the natives that were indigenous to that area, they exploited them. They were accused of terrible crimes, and he was sent by the British Crown to investigate and see if that was true as a matter of humanitarian concern. And then when he discovered that yes, it was true, and it didn't even go into the worst, and then he was sent as an investigator to Peru for the same reason, the rubber trees. There was a big company that headed by a man who had gone in and kind of conquered the the area for his own company, and he was reputed to be very ruthless, killing and murdering, killing people with overwork, as well as murdering them outright when they didn't get their quotas. Now see, quota was what was demanded, and many times the quota exceeded what the natives could even do, and so they would still expect more and more because everyone benefited somewhat. The higher ups, all the way up to the head of the company, benefited. The more brought out, and if human life was sacrificed, that was considered all right. Well, this author his name is Mario Vargas Llosa, and he's from Peru, so he undoubtedly knew a lot about this and was inspired to write this about Roger Casement, who later decided that Ireland, his native Ireland, would benefit from getting free from Great Britain. And here he'd served Great Britain. He'd even been knighted for all that he had done on behalf of the people who were being exploited. Well, he felt that Ireland was being exploited, and they should rise up and throw off British rule and revert to independence as they had been when and speaking their own language. And so during the process he teamed up with he was told that the Germans would help him, and this was after World War I, and there was a lot of hostility in Great Britain, naturally still, toward the Germans. They were supposed to come over and supply the guns for this uprising. Well, something went wrong. They didn't get the message through, and so they sunk the ship that had the guns so that it wouldn't fall into British hands, which it would have done. And from that, Roger Casement, who'd been such a great humanitarian in what he had done, how he had sacrificed, how he became targeted as a traitor because of his alliance with the Germans. So, and he was sentenced to hang. And then his diaries were discovered, and it was discovered that every now and then he would have some secretive, he tried to keep them secret, encounters with homosexual encounters, with males wherever he went. And he would write those down too. He would write everything in his diary. Well, these were used to inflame the people against him, because in those times, any kind of alliance, homosexual alliance, was against the law and was considered grounds for imprisonment or whatever. So this didn't help his cause at all. And again, this is another cause that I have been involved with for many years. And it was a very difficult cause because when I was just a child, I perceived, due to being molested, and this was a very hard way to find it out, but I had suspected it before, that my father was involved in, he was married, he was supposedly, but he was a rancher and he had quite a lot of freedom to go here and there, do whatever. And I began to perceive or suspect that he was involved in some illicit, the same sort of thing, homosexual encounters. Well, back then it was just like, this was just unheard of. I mean, it was against the law, and so I had to keep mum. As a child, I didn't see how I could ever be talking about that, but I had my eyes open, and from then on I would be like observing what my father did, how this came about. There were other men naturally who, if he had anything to do with them, that would, so my head was just filled with conflict, upset. But books like these were my saving, because here, now this Llosa, here he is a very intelligent man, and maybe he's gay, I don't know, but he has a great understanding and tolerance. And in the end, he would say, well, this man was living such an austere life on the road all the time. He couldn't stop, he couldn't marry, he couldn't do any normal things. So he was human. And these encounters should not condemn him. So in other words, he's looking at the human side of it all. And I always had to look at it that way. Like, I love my father in many ways, and I just had to say, well, this split was probably formed in childhood even, or in teenager, due to being introduced to these kind of practices, which I saw around me, going on around me. And I felt that he couldn't help finally what he felt. And he tried to stifle it, but he would try to commit suicide every whip stitch and was openly suicidal. So it wasn't as if he wasn't registering that if people found out what he was doing, they would think he was a scum, really a scum. And so he was obligingly going to kill himself. Well, I fought that. I said, no, he's too valuable. People are too valuable to drive to suicide over something that, as all down through history, has been part of the human condition, that there's always been homosexual encounters for whatever reasons. And we can explore those reasons and try to see if there's any way that we can change them. But to accept adults, we should be able to accept what adults do. It's the children where we need to focus, so they don't get molested, they don't get dragged into it. Because if you stop and think, if a child is molested repeatedly by the same sex, a male, I would say a boy, that boy is not going to know nothing but homosexual until he's old enough to supposedly explore the other. And too often, if there's an early history of having those feelings, even if it's through molestation, that is going to stick. And there is nobody that can change that change the fact that that person has been oriented to that lifestyle. And this is what I think probably happened with my father and numerous other men like him who got into these kind of practices through their connections to older people. So you see, I have just been involved in causes that were just so difficult. And of course my mother, I felt she was being exploited, women. So my cause was women being exploited by men lying to them, and not being able to divorce and get nearly as good of, a divorce. You pay a high price for a divorce. And if there's infidelity detected or some kind of behavior that's not acceptable in a marriage, then we either had to stuff yourself and keep quiet about it, or get a divorce and suffer the consequences of that, which would be a loss of income, prestige, all sorts of things. Look at me. Now I'm operating by myself. My partner's no longer by my side. We have had somewhat of a divorce in that he can no longer tolerate. He can't tolerate me talking about my causes and still be polite and civil. He just took to snarling and this is typical of what men do when they are not able to persuade you. They turn into growl, which was my father, and my brother-in-law, I always called him Snarl, and and Doc, I'm afraid he's turned into Mr. Sneer. And so I just had to say, enough is enough. I'm going it alone, even if I'm not as popular as Mr. So-and-so he made me look like, well, I had somebody that cared about me. Well, he only cares about me in a very limited way. He doesn't care about my causes. And he'll say somewhat, but he's not a good ally anymore. He never was a very good ally, but at least he was tolerable on my videos, but now he's not. And I can go on his videos and be polite, civil, but he can't come on mine and be polite and civil anymore. He cannot, he's just reached the point where he can't take it. And of course he's an alcoholic, so that has quite a bit to do with it. But there's lots of people running around working and even famous and all kinds of things who get into heavy drinking. That's not unusual. But it takes its toll of sanity, of civility, and just can't help it. That's what happens. And I have a lot of tolerance for an alcoholic up to a point when he's starting to sabotage what I do. Now this one is my latest book. I'll mention that, the Patagonian Hair. This is a strange name. I like it, but this man made a movie called Shoah. I don't know if that's a pronunciation, but it was 9 hours long. And it's all about the Holocaust, the terrible, unprecedented event in history where 6 million Jews were eliminated, burned, gassed, shot, anything to kill them. And this man took years going around raising money. He'd run out of money. Then he was from France. He had been born in France, but some of his people got into the camps and were destroyed, killed. So he spent all those years struggling to make this historic movie about the camps. He went to all the camps. He talked to people who had been in them and escaped, who had operated something on the other side. He went to Poland. The story of how he made this movie is in here. And again, the Holocaust I just read everything I could read on it. I just thought, how could man fall to such a level? Killing. Once you accept killing, and this is why I've been an abortion protester. Once you accept killing, you dehumanized yourself somewhat. You have become less. Any way that you can keep from killing is for the benefit of mankind. And I see that when people start reasoning that this is okay, their reasoning starts going haywire. Because it's tough. It's very tough to expect women to find a way to control their sex life, their encounters with men, and this involves fighting men, not becoming addicted to sex yourself to the point that you will do anything to have it, and then you will end up doing anything if there's a child that you don't want or can't afford or so on. That is it in a nutshell, that you have to begin before that child is ever conceived to commit yourself. And it's very, very tough. It's very tough to ask this of people. But when the killing begins, that is when there is great danger. And a fetus, whether you like it or not, is alive, and you have to kill it in order to achieve an abortion, and that makes it the wrong thing to do right there, because you are using killing as a solution, which is never good. So I'm just weighing in today saying I'm happy that the 20-week ban was upheld, and I wanted to celebrate and talk about other issues, but I'm very glad to meet with you today. Thank you.